Hi everybody, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with another Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 3, Episode 3. And before we get started, I got a couple of tipper-doos I'd like to thank. Christopher Hill from the UK, who wanted to let me know he's been enjoying my content for many years. Well, I'm so glad to hear that, Christopher. Thanks so much for popping by. And my regular tipper-doer, Vito. Thanks as always, Vito. I hope your sister Lucy is enjoying the channel. Seriously, cooey Lucy, that's all I'm saying. If you'd like to be a tipper, do get Wilma merch at my Redbubble shop or join the Fingerdoo family over on Patreon. All those links are down below in the description box. Now, while you're down there, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Now, Jorge, drink me a pink cocktail, which was my drag queen name in high school. Seriously, Jorge. Oh, what is it? Oh, dolls, it's my favorite time of the year. Cranberry ginger ale with a little vodka, because that's what makes it festive. Okay, let's get to it. As we picked up this episode after last week's elimination, I have two things to say. No offense to Vanity, but she was going right off about proving what a threat she was after winning the lip sync and how now none of the other queens want to go up against her. Is she high? I, for one, was actually disappointed by her lip sync last week. From all the talk, I was expecting her to do so much more. So I don't know what she was going on about, especially after Elektra all but admitted on Pop Buzz that she'd been disqualified for jumping off that stage. See, I told you. Apparently, she had asked production if she could do her signature jumping off of something into the splits on episode 1. Well, and they had said no. So she went ahead and did it without asking for episode 2. Personally, I find that story easier to believe than Vanity's performance bringing the house down. No offense. Secondly, after all that body shaming last week, did Veronica Green just throw a fat joke up in Victoria's face? She's got a lot of nerve, especially after having her nose put out of joint over being called old. That put me right off. Now, yes, Vicky did set herself up with the "it's not over till the fat lady sings" comment, but why kick a big girl while she's down with a knee injury? Maybe it's Ronnie's age after all. They did say the mind's the first thing to go. Or is it taste? And poor Victoria. It can't be easy to be twisted in the wind waiting to hear what her fate will be. All in all, it was a very drama-filled way to start the episode off, and the queens hadn't even gotten out of drag yet. Seriously. The next day in the workroom, Victoria was nowhere to be seen. Clearly, she was off to the doctor, so the other queens were able to slag Crystal for being the only queen to win any badges after 2 episodes. Charity had clearly gotten over being in the bottom enough to chide the 19-year-old for winning a challenge she thought she was going to lose, while Ella was hoping for a tap dancing challenge. Something, anything she was sure she could beat Crystal at. Tap dancing? Thankfully, Rue's video message interrupted the queens' grilling of their clear competition. This week's message was full of tent pole and wood references that, well, had the queens' interest on the rise. Rue then showed up, but with some bad news. Victoria had indeed been pulled from competition due to her knee, and as sad as that was to hear, there were more than a couple of queens who were happy to have one of the stronger competitors out of the way. Veronica Green! Tell me I'm lying, look at that face. So, without further ado, it was on to the mini challenge. The queens had to create a profile for an ambiguously straight bloke who just can't find the right girl for the app Finder. Well, that seemed to shut more than a few of them up. And with that, they got into quick butch drag. Well, Ronnie got into another off-putting outfit. I mean, I heard she had trouble scounging up enough looks for this season, but this is getting ridiculous. I have to say, except for Kitty's short shorts and whatever it was Ronnie was wearing, I was pretty impressed with how butch the queens ended up looking. Seriously. So, without further ado, it was time to record their profiles. Oh. Are you on an app? Bet you're on a few. All the queens did a surprisingly good job, but for me, the standouts were Scarlet Harlot's construction worker, who was a total laugh riot. Here's the Scarlet skinny little thing, butching it up. Kitty was another one who had me giggling. She started off woofing it up with the blokes, but the minute she got into the booth, her falsetto was so funny, and her using the quote from Miss Congeniality about the perfect date did me in. Seriously. I have to say, I was disappointed by Charity Case. I don't know why, but I expected more from her. And as for Veronica Green, the more she talked, the more uncomfortable I felt. Never mind a safe word, I would have taken a non-committal word by the end of it. Seriously. So, when the left and right swiping was over, it was Scarlett Harlot's construction worker who won the day. Here's the Scarlett again. I wonder if she'll be selling mustache rides after the show, because that'd be a waste of handlebars, I'm just saying. And then it was on to the Maxi challenge. The queens had to serve 2 campy looks on the runway. The first look, Happy Camper, had to be something one might wear while walking children in nature. The second look, Campfire Couture, had to be created from the array of camping equipment that was provided. Hooray! I love an unconventional materials challenge. Seriously. Because Scarlett won the mini, she got a 15-second head start, but all she seemed to grab were a couple of kites and the shells that they were tied to before the other queens joined the fray. As you can imagine, it was a free-for-all, but there seemed to be enough stuff to go around, including snacks. I totally would have eaten those. River seemed to feel fairly confident with this challenge because, well, she can sew, but her bigger problem was that she hadn't really impressed Ru with her looks so far, so there was added pressure on her to turn out a good one this time. Seriously. Ella, on the other hand, is not a sewer, so she was at a complete loss before the challenge had really even got started. Seriously, bless. Thankfully, Ru popped back in to check on everyone's progress, and she brought Raven along with her. The queens were so thrilled by Raven being there that these check-ins became more about makeup advice than how they were progressing with their looks. Well, I mean, why waste the opportunity? Seriously. The queens had their audiences with Ru and Raven in groups. Group 1 was Kitty, Choriza, and Veronica, and it was quickly established that Choriza and Ronnie had put their lockdown experience to good use by teaching themselves how to sew. I have to say, I was impressed to hear that Choriza had even challenged herself to make a dress a day. That said, she didn't say how many days that lasted, but still, here's to Choriza. Well done. Kitty seemed less savvy where her sewing skills were concerned, which is probably why she asked Raven for some nose contouring tips. Coincidentally, I was recently asked about my nose contour, and I posted a video about how I get my schnoz snatched. The link is up here. And yes, Snatch Schnoz was my drag queen name in high school. Vanity and Charity were next, and not only does Charity do a lot of camping, making costumes out of unconventional materials is what her drag is all about, so she was feeling pretty good about this challenge. Vanity's sewing skills, on the other hand, seemed less ambitious, which is probably why her plan seemed to be to use aluminum cookout tins for her costume, which seemed to worry Ru almost as much as it worried me. I mean, what, she feels more confident about her welding skills? Seriously. I mean, that's probably why Vanity seemed more interested in advice from Raven about reducing the shine of her finish on her makeup. It's a good opportunity used right there, is what I'm saying. Next up were Scarlett and an obviously starstruck Crystal. Seriously, Crystal barely said 2 words. She was so gobsmacked. If her eyes had been any wider, they'd have fallen out of her face. Scarlett seemed to have her sewing project well planned, so she asked Raven about softening her jawline. I like that Raven pointed out that a lot of beautiful women have strong jawlines, Raven being one of them. For some reason, we never got to River and Ella, which was too bad because Ella clearly looked like she wanted to chat. Bless. As the queens got back to it, the sewers seemed to be put upon by the queens who weren't. Ronnie gave Scarlett some advice about her seam allowances, while Crystal had questions for River about executing her designs. I have to say, I was super impressed with River's restraint. She was more than okay to assist Crystal with execution, but drew the line at actually designing the look for her. Something Ronnie seemed unable to do as she moved on to actually showing Scarlett how to use her sewing machine. I get it. Ronnie wants to be helpful, but she has to put herself first. I'm so serious. As Kitty and Charity stitched away, Kitty asked Charity how she got started in drag. Charity shocked Kitty by telling her it was a way of expressing her emotions during therapy after contracting HIV at 18, bless her heart. From the sounds of it, Charity was really taken advantage of by a guy that left her to deal with the stigma and repercussions of it all 6 years after the fact. The stories of the prejudice and fear she's had to deal with while trying to date, never mind finding that special someone, was a heartbreak, not only to hear, but for Charity to share. It broke my heart. I'm serious. I'm just glad she had someone as lovely as Kitty to talk to about it. As you can imagine, it was a very emotional discussion that involved lots of much-needed hugs. Here's to Kitty and Charity. I'm serious, lovely gals. Since her visit with Ru, Vanity shared with Scarlett that she'd abandoned the cookout tins for some orange cording, mostly because Ru said it was one of her favorite colors. Good choice, Vanity, I'm just saying. Crystal had moved on from River to Veronica for sewing advice, which Ronnie was more than willing to share. I wonder if Ronnie is a lonely person or if she doesn't have many friends, because her eagerness to help others over herself was becoming a worry for me. And I wasn't alone. Choriza was noticing it too. Seriously. But there was no time to ponder because suddenly it was Elimination Day. And as the queens tried to get their finishing touches on their looks, Ella asked River how it was going for her. Well, I don't think it was going well because at the end of the day yesterday, River realized that her materials weren't going to work. So she scrapped the whole design and started from scratch again. Ella, on the other hand, was starting to feel more confident in her runway look, which was a surprise for her because, well, she's only ever made one dress before, so here's to Ella. Way to step it up, just saying. Scarlett and Kitty quietly made fun of Vanity's look due to the fact that at the end of the day, it was just a bunch of stuff glued to a corset. And in the category of no surprise to anyone, Ronnie seemed to be behind the gun, struggling to finish her runway look. So much so that she was starting to regret giving Crystal all that help and advice. It's about time. And then it was time for the runway. I have to say, I loved Ru's wig this week. It was just stunning, but that dress, well, it looked like a glittery towel wrapped around her, and not in a good way. But I do want to point out that her exposed midriff was a corset. Now that's how you match a skin tone is all I'm saying. Seriously, I hope Vanity took notes. Joining Michelle at the judges table this week was the always delicious Graham Norton and, from Dairy Girls, the delightfully hilarious Nicola Coughlan. And then it was on to the Queen's first runway. Category is Happy Campers in the Great Outdoors. Crystal Versace was first, looking gorgeous in a green Girl Scout uniform. This was too stunning not to give a Fingerdoo to, so I went ahead and did. Kitty Scott-Claus was next, and I have to say her entrance was my favorite part of her look, hiding behind that map that said Skitty. I'm always calling her Skitty. Hey, Skitty! That's it. I'm just calling her Skitty from now on. She seemed to go down the Girl Scout route, too. At least her uniform was more gray than green, and as glamorous a look as Crystal served, Kitty was delivering full-on camp, as in carry-on camping, and seriously, who doesn't love a good carry-on movie? Fingerdoo for Kitty, just saying. I have no idea what the hell River's runway had to do with happy camping in the great outdoors, but the fact that it was made out of a map was fabulous for me, so I had to give her a Fingerdoo. Really, it said more road trip than happy camping. Well, if River's runway confused me, Charity Case's runway blew my mind out of my ears, and not in a good way. Her neon bunny from hell had some Girl Guide elements on it, but short of it being a rabid rabbit, I didn't get the happy camping connection at all. In fact, the bloodstains on the axe were the opposite of happy, if you ask me. So I gave her a Fingerdoo. Thank God Choriza May's blue feathered fantasy was next, because although her outfit had nothing to do with camping or the great outdoors, it was a welcome sight after Charity's runway. Still, Fingerdoo for Choriza. I mean, what was that? She looked like a crazy blue emu. I didn't hate Scarlet Harlot's Hunger Games Vampire Warrior, but let's be honest, it was far from happy anything, so I had to give it a Fingerdoo as well. I didn't want to. The only thing that was great or outdoorsy in Vanity's runway was that blue camo sleeping bag coat, but I just didn't get the pink jumpsuit underneath, so Fingerdoo for Vanity, I'm afraid. Elimination's butterfly catcher was a tad too Eliza Doolittle for me, but It was outdoorsy, and she looked happy, so I gave her a Fingerdoo. Plus, it looked just like the drawing of Jane from the Disney cartoon Tarzan, so it impressed me. I hate to say it, but I would have liked Ronnie's runway if she had better hair and makeup. Her just woke up in a sleeping bag look needed more, and, well, this wasn't it, so Fingerdoo for Miss Green was. Category 2, Campfire Couture. Once again, Crystal was utter perfection on that runway. Her body proportions and the fit of that outfit was amazing. Not to mention that wig and makeup. Another Fingerdoo for Ms. Versace. Just one ugly look. I like one ugly look from her. I just love Kitty's runway too. It was modern, it was glamorous, and it had a matching purse, so Fingerdoo for Kitty. I have to say I was so impressed with River's runway. Not only did she change the design last minute, but the fit of this dress and the fact that there was a matching hat was more than I could stand. So Fingerdoo for Ms. Medway, seriously. I like Charity Case's second look way more than her first one, although why she didn't wear tights is beyond me. I'm not bothered by her hairy legs, but combining it with her fuzzy buns, well, it took me out of the fantasy the front of her runway was serving. Still, Fingerdoo for Miss Case. And yes, fuzzy buns was my drag queen name in high school. I didn't hate Teresa May's second look, but it was awfully simple. Still, the eye patch and the painted hands were an interesting touch. I just wonder why she wore those chalky white tights, especially since chalky white tights was also my drag queen name in high school. And then I gagged so hard I almost passed out. Scarlett's runway was glamorous perfection. From the top of that white Cher wig to the tips of her glittery toes, the last thing this look gave me was blanket. If I could have given her 10 Fingerdoos, I would have. But I feel that's aggressive. I love the idea of Vanity Milan's runway. It just wasn't executed very well. I couldn't tell if the uneven hem was on purpose or not, but I will say I thought her makeup and hair was beautiful, so I gave her a Fingerdoo. For someone who doesn't sew, I thought Ella Vidae did a great job on this look. The coat was fun, and the shortness of her dress was kicky, so Fingerdoo for Ella. Lastly was Veronica Green serving us memories of Ms. Vanjie. All that tufted fabric on her bodice absolutely swallowed her figure. The wings were also unnecessary. The best part of this look was her face and hands covered in black paint, but they really had nothing to do with the rest of the outfit, so I have to give her a Fingerdoo. Seriously. Now, before we get to the judges' critiques, I just want to commend them for having some of the funniest comments I've heard in a while during a drag race runway. I think it was due to Nicola Coughlin's influence. That woman is a hoot. Seriously. First off, Ru's Safe Queens this week were Kitty Scott-Claus, River Medway, and Charity Case. So they frigged right off. Good for them. Then it was critique time. Crystal Versace was first and an obvious fave of the judges, but I think Graham said what we were all thinking. It was what we expected from both her runways, and, well, we need more, or at the very least different. Nicola also said what we'd all been thinking. If this is what Crystal's doing at 19, well, she hates her. Don't hate me because I'm 19. Hate me because I'm better than you. Teresa May was next, and once again, Graham said what we were all thinking. He couldn't enjoy her first look because he was so confused by it. Ru felt that the second look wasn't up to par with the rest of the looks, but when Teresa told them the story of the supervillain she was embodying, well, it made even less sense, I won't lie, but it involved a nocturnal emission, and, well, who doesn't love that? Especially when it was your drag queen name in high school! Scarlett was next, and although Michelle wasn't a huge fan of her first look, or Joan Jett from what I understood, none of the judges could say enough about Scarlett's second look. The icing was definitely Ru asking her to flick her hair back like Cher. Oh, seriously, that never disappoints. Vanity Milan was next, and Michelle wasn't a fan of her first look, although Graham thought it did look like Ab Fab Goes Camping. Well, at least Eddie, anyway. Nicola wished she'd done an orange lip with the look, and Ru wished she'd hemmed the skirt on her second one so that it was more even. Just saying. Next was Ella Vidae, whose first look hit Nicola's sweet spot, which sounds dirty, while Graham felt that Scarlett's plaid dress upstaged hers. It upstaged everyone, so just saying. Last, but not particularly least, was Veronica Green. Michelle wasn't a fan of her first look and felt there was too much going on in her second look. Nicola, however, did love her makeup, although Graham thought it was a dour, dark look for something involving rainbows. But that was what Ronnie was going for. She explained how it represented her struggle with depression over the past summer. Well, that certainly touched Nicola's heart, seriously. Back in the Untucked Lounge, Kitty was glad she was safe, but she did, however, think that River had a lucky escape and was expecting that she would have ended up lip-syncing. Kitty was also surprised that Charity was only safe and not in the top 3. I wonder who her best friend is. When the rest of the queens arrived, Scarlett was very proud that the judges loved her second look, but when Crystal chimed in that the judges liked both of her looks, Scarlett added what Graham said about wanting to see something different from Crystal. Someone's worried about somebody getting a third win, isn't someone? And Scarlett wasn't the only one. Charity asked if it would be fair for Crystal to get a third win with all the help that she got. Ooh, that set the crows a-cawing, I'm just saying. Vanity was also stressing over the prospect of being in the bottom, or at least the high end of the bottom, as she put it. She thought the challenge was to create something couture over something that was obviously off the rack, like Scarlett's dress. Thank God for Ronnie's tears. Well, now there's the name of a movie of the week. She was clearly in the bottom, and it was breaking her heart. Well, at least it did until she suddenly blamed her helping others with their looks on why she was in the bottom. Just saying. Back on the main stage, it was revealed that Crystal Versace was not this week's winner for a change. It was Scarlett Harlot, and rightly so. I have to say, I couldn't tell if the other queens were giving her a round of applause because she won or because Crystal didn't. Either way, here's to Scarlett, seriously. As for the bottom 2 queens, it was Veronica Green and Vanity Milan, who was shocked that she was there over Choriza. The lip sync to Kiki D's "I've Got the Music in Me" was fun to watch. Clearly, neither of these queens wanted to go home, and I have to tell you, I didn't think either of them would. What with Victoria being removed from the competition due to her knee, I thought for sure that this would be a double Shantae. Both these queens served it. Vanity danced it out like she said she would, and, well, Ronnie's gradual removal of the extraneous bits of her costume was filled with emotion. But when the music ended, it was Vanity Milan who Shantae'd and fan favorite Veronica Green who sashayed away. This was an emotional exit for everyone, I'm so serious. So, what did you think? Did the right queen go home? Should Vanity have been in the bottom over Choriza? And how about someone other than Crystal winning a repeater badge? Is this the beginning of a winning streak for Miss Harlot? All we can do is tune into RuPaul's Drag Race next week to see how it all plays out. And when you're done, you come on back and see me so you and I can compare notes. Now, before you go, please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Those are the best ways you can support me and the Fingerdoo review. But if you'd like to do more, there are links in the description box down below on becoming a Tipperdoo, getting Wilma merch on my Redbubble store, or joining the Fingerdoo family on Patreon to see my weekly watches and take part in my live chats, which we do twice a month. Seriously, we're chatty. And until next time, miss me. Mwah. Seriously. I'm so glad that Crystal didn't win this week, although I thought she looked good. She really did. But I agree what Graham was saying. It's like, she looks so good, but we were expecting that. I really love Charity Case's drag. I really do, but she just seems to go out of her way to kind of throw a spanner into her own works. I thought that yellow outfit could have easily have been a top look if she'd finished the back and had tights on. I'm not saying that she should have, but I think she's in a competition. It's a drag race, RuPaul's Drag Race competition. When you've got such a broad spectrum of queens doing looks, it makes it easier for her to be ignored or dismissed, and I hate to see that because I think she's got some excellent looks. Kitty thought she was going to get close to that badge this week. She better too. I like her. She's doing some good drag. I think they're splitting hairs with Kitty. And Ella, well, if she doesn't win one soon, she may explode. Poor thing. Poor Victoria. You know, they didn't even mention whether she's coming back for season 4, if there's a season 4. I hope that she does.